This video presents declassified and licensed material of the Global Institute of Logic and Cybernetics.
Every year, institutional capital deploys trillions of dollars into urban infrastructure projects. Yet the vast majority of these smart city initiatives stall out as isolated pilots or degrade into unmaintainable systems. The first trap is dashboardism. Municipalities invest heavily in integrated command services, screens that monitor traffic flows and energy grids. These interfaces observe conditions, but they hold no actual workflow authority. They display alerts without the legal or mechanical ability to execute a response. This leads directly to the pilot cemetery. Cities accumulate technology experiments subsidized by short-term grants. Because these isolated applications are launched without a designated municipal operator or a long-term funding mechanism, they die the moment the initial grant expires. The heaviest financial losses stem from CAPEX Glamour collapse. City councils approve massive upfront capital expenditures to build out sensor networks or transit nodes, while systematically ignoring the required operating expenditures and long-term maintenance burdens. These failures share a common root. Smart city programs are currently treated as generic software deployments. They lack the mathematically stabilized physical architecture required to keep a complex cyber-physical system running under stress. ScrollCities enters the market to correct this structural deficit. It abandons the traditional monolithic smart city platform model. Instead, ScrollCities operates strictly as a constitutional urban intelligence stack. This stack explicitly binds physical territory, public services, and capital structures into a machine-readable runtime environment. Every digital action is tied to a physical operator and an audited legal policy. The objective of this briefing is to deconstruct that exact protocol. We will examine how this architecture converts volatile, fragmented urban projects into a predictable, de-risked asset class. To safely absorb institutional-grade capital, urban development must move past speculative tech integration and establish constitutional certainty. Directing attention to the visual, true systemic resilience requires mathematical validation, not simply better programming. The ScrollCities framework rests on a rigorous theoretical spine, beginning with this base layer. This foundation is Digital Fabrica Theory, or DFT. It establishes a strict ontology, mapping the exact physical and territorial boundaries of the urban fabric, so the system knows precisely what it governs. Above that sits Fractal QFT. This acts as the stabilization lens. It provides the system's defense mechanism, isolating failures within specific districts so that a local operational degradation cannot cascade across the entire city. The final layer is transport reciprocity logic, or TFR. This mechanism guarantees that data structures and operational workflows remain coherent and mathematically verifiable when they travel between different, isolated city districts. Unpredictable urban sprawl is replaced by invariant laws of operation. The software cannot execute actions that violate the physical and legal constraints of the city. That structural logic extends directly to economics. In ScrollCities, an urban architecture proposal is considered invalid if it lacks a precise mathematical capital grammar. Directing attention to the visual, this ledger displays the equation of the investable city. Every project must balance this formula. It mandates that initial capital expenditure, K, must be intrinsically linked to operating expenditure, O, and long-term maintenance, M. This enforces the no CAPEX only lemma. As the data shows, an isolated spike in construction capital guarantees a steadily declining failure curve if the continuous financial support for daily operations and maintenance is missing. Before any physical construction is authorized or software is deployed, the algorithm requires explicit operator cost coupling. Someone must be legally and financially responsible for the runtime upkeep. By forcing planners to bind build costs to lifecycle burdens, the protocol eliminates hidden liabilities. It creates a financially transparent environment that meets the strict underwriting standards of sovereign wealth funds. This demand for verified utility dictates how new technology enters the city. ScrollCities rejects speculative, hackathon-style tech incubators in favor of a token-free, real economy venture studio. The city itself functions as a venture compiler. A startup slot is only generated when three criteria intersect: a measured district pain point, a specific operator burden, and a documented deficit in a key performance indicator. The system enforces an absolute operator binding rule. A generic application deployed without a specific municipal operator is rejected. Solutions only integrate when they attach directly to a human workflow. Once integrated, the startup enters a strict certification phase. Its performance is measured against the baseline KPI to prove real-world utility before it is templated for replication. This strict extraction and validation process ensures that technology companies serve the district's operational reality, rather than forcing the district to serve the technology. When deploying this constitutional stack across diverse global environments, the protocol scales exclusively through precise, atomic, district-first deployments. Attempting a monolithic city-wide replacement guarantees failure. Directing attention to the visual, the first deployment class is the megacity retrofit. Here, the system applies constitutional overlays onto legacy infrastructure, clarifying operator maps and workflows without risking a catastrophic shutdown of existing services. The second class targets the emerging city. In rapidly expanding zones, the protocol deploys a growth orchestration framework to establish data structures and workflow order before infrastructural lock-in occurs. The final class is the new city, or SEZ compiler. Operating on a blank slate, the entire constitutional logic and finance sequence is digitally compiled and verified prior to physical construction. Categorizing deployments into these exact typologies allows ScrollCities to enforce strict structural laws, while remaining entirely adaptable to the physical and political reality of any sovereign state. The final vulnerability in any large-scale urban network is the breakdown of neutral governance. Data standards drift, policies conflict, and public trust erodes. To secure the ecosystem, the architecture relies on the Global Institute of Logic and Cybernetics, GILC. This steward sits above the stack, processing data from district, finance, and venture layers. It does not manage operations, but enforces invariant laws, audits finance, and provides cryptographic certification. This oversight neutralizes vendor lock-in and prevents policy incoherence. It guarantees that municipal data cannot be exploited by private platforms. GILC's certification is the mechanism that converts raw urban data and localized software into a verified, globally standardized infrastructure asset. The transition is complete. The fragile, fragmented model of the smart city is replaced by a mathematically resilient, operator-bound network. For institutional capital, this yields a newly de-risked urban asset class. It is structured, audited, and ready to safely absorb large-scale investments from sovereign wealth and infrastructure funds. ScrollCities provides the exact strategic framework required to ensure the financial sovereignty, scalability, and operational survival of the 21st century city.